Welcome back to my channel. I am Queen Kenya Afia Bezra. And now we're going to get into Project 2025 and Agenda 47 and what it means for Black people. Let's do it.
I was told on my live this morning that I need to go read Agenda 47 because I stated that Trump does not endorse Project 2025, but Agenda 47 is a Cliff Notes version. So I went and I read it. First up, ending homelessness in veterans, which will be taking the funding away from the housing for the immigrants that are coming in illegally over our border and putting that funding into housing for our homeless veterans. Also giving funding to the VA. Ending the war in Ukraine on day one. Newsflash, Putin, about a week ago, said that he would be okay with this. It talks about lessening low-income housing and using that money to help Americans who want to purchase homes. Instead of putting that money into rentals and low-income housing, it would put together programs so you can be in the best financial position to purchase a home. Hiring 100 new prosecutors and firing the ones that George Soros hired. Ending the source of drug addiction in America. And funding better programs for people who are addicted to drugs. That funding would also come from the housing that is for the illegal immigrants crossing our border. If you come over to the United States illegally right now, but give birth to a child in the United States, that child is automatically a U.S. citizen. This is going to stop that from happening. The rise in childhood chronic illnesses, we are going to start incentivizing looking for the root cause of those illnesses instead of just shelling out the medication to these children. Not just putting a Band-Aid on it and calling it a day. Building the military and giving monetary incentives to join the military, but also changing the way that the military does things, reconstructing the military. Returning jobs back to the United States that are currently being done overseas so that we can further an economic boom. If you are caught human trafficking or drug trafficking and you are convicted, you could get the penalty. Using gas cars instead of electric cars. Making America energy independent again. Drill, baby, drill. People that homeschool will get a check from the government every month, just like the public school system does. Taking that funding from the Department of Education and putting it back in the hands of the parents. Giving the parents back that power, and also holding teachers and faculty accountable for talking about their sexual preferences or the sexual preferences of a child. Setting children up for success before they graduate. And stopping welfare for the people who are coming into this country illegally. Where's the problem with all of that? I don't really know, but I read it. Those are some of the key points. If y'all want to go and read it for yourselves, please do. Stop listening to the media. Have a nice day.
Project 2025 doesn't just demonize single mothers, it wants to change policies to punish single moms and perhaps even remove children from single-parent households. Don't take my word for it. Let me show you. Their top priority is promise number 1, restoring the family as the centerpiece of American life. And they specifically call out unmarried mothers as a reason that the American family is in crisis. 400 pages later, when you get to their section on the Department of Health and Human Services, you see that they want to rewrite what the definition of a family is to be comprised of a married mother and father and their children, saying that currently Health and Human Services is too focused on LGBTQ plus equity and subsidizing single motherhood, and saying that these policies should be repealed and replaced by policies that support the formation of stable married nuclear families. It's not enough to be heterosexual, by the way, because they also call out homes with non-related boyfriends as being one of the most dangerous places for a child. And they don't much like surrogacy either. In the context of emerging reproductive technologies, Health and Human Services should never place the desire of adults over the right of a child to be raised by the biological fathers and mothers who conceived them. Here's a horrifying paragraph. The Secretary of Health and Human Services anti-abortion
Biden campaign against you. This is a headline that the campaign put out. Trump's Project 2025 is a deliberate attack on Black lives and Black livelihood, and it talks about the cost of things and what it says 2025's project would be. I first of all just want to get from you your thoughts on Project 2025 and whether or not Biden can use this effectively against you.
I don't think he'll be able to. Look, first of all, I have no idea what it is. It's a group of extremely conservative people got together and wrote up a wish list of things, many of which I disagree with entirely. They're too severe, like on abortion, as an example. They have a strong view of abortion. Well, from what I've heard, it's not too far, way too far. They've gone really too far. I wanted to get abortion. I did a great job. But getting rid of Roe v. Wade, I was able to get it back into the states. And now I've given it back to the people. The people are voting. And frankly, the people are voting in many cases quite liberally. You look at Ohio, look at what happened in Ohio, look at what happened in Kansas. They can vote the way they want. It's not a federal issue. It'll never be a federal issue again.
Your vice presidential pick, are you close?
I'm very close.
Let me tell y'all something. If you don't have your passport, you need to get your passport before this election. Let me tell y'all something else. If you're interested in moving outside of the United States, you need to get your passport and move out of the United States before this election. Let me tell y'all a third thing. If you have not familiarized yourself with Project 2025, you need to do that before this election coming up. Do what y'all got to do. Don't wait till the last minute, y'all.
You may have heard of Project 2025, but this is from Agenda 47, and you can read all of these on his website. First, he promises that he will carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in history. He will also ask for the death sentence for anyone convicted of human trafficking. He will close the Department of Education and return all education standards to the states to decide. He will put prayer back into school, and he will criminalize any race-based advantage programs. He will end the Affordable Care Act. He will ban gender-affirming care for adults and children, and he will ban any federal dollars from going towards gender-affirming care, which means anyone with government-provided health care will no longer be able to access gender-affirming care except for Viagra and Cialis. Those will still be available. He will propose a constitutional amendment that gives a term limit to Congress. He will deploy the Department of Justice to investigate the Biden crime family and any of his adversaries or political rivals. He will immediately pardon all of the January 6thers, and he will create a task force to investigate anyone who arrested, charged, or imprisoned a January 6er. He will increase the penalties for underage criminal offenders, strengthen immunity for police officers, and deploy the National Guard to patrol woke cities. On day one, he will reassess our participation in NATO and says that every European country needs to pay the United States for protection. He will also restore the wonderful travel ban for Muslims coming to America. He will build freedom cities. This is 10 new cities built on federal land. He will award them to areas with the best development proposals, and he will prioritize moving young families to these freedom cities. He will kill all e-vehicles and e-vehicle legislation, seeking to replace that with the development of a flying car. He believes that we could create a car that vertically takes off. He will remove all of the limits on American natural gas exports and drill baby drill for oil domestically. He will impose a tariff of up to 60% on Chinese imports. He will extend the 2017 tax cuts and drop the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%. He will push Congress to pass legislation that would give every American the right to concealed carry anywhere at any time. And he will revoke any gun restrictions or legislation that seeks to inhibit people's ability to own guns that's been passed in the last several years. He will demand that Europe pay back all the money we gave Ukraine, and then he will use all of that money to recruit for the American military. And he will take billions and billions of dollars from private university endowments by taxing, fining, and suing the universities. He specifically names Harvard in this one. And then he will use that money to create the American Academy. It is a free online college that will be free of wokeness that he will force employers to recognize as a bachelor's degree equivalent. So that's Agenda 47.
If they can keep you uneducated, they can keep you indoctrinated. We have to look throughout history and see why were enslaved people not allowed to read. It's because the oppressor understood that if I can deprive you of knowledge, I can deprive you of power. We have to ask ourselves now, today, in today's society, who is actively trying to attack education? Who is trying to ban books, keep people from reading? Whose Project 2025 is trying to dissolve and abolish the Department of Education? Who has made education a bad thing? Who's weaponized the word woke and made it into a slur? Who? We have to ask ourselves these questions. We have to ask ourselves who, and we have to ask ourselves why.
Project 2025, in short, because I know we're going to be short on time, it's about making sure you bow down to the orange Jesus. That's true. Okay, some of y'all will get that when you get home. Nevertheless, they want to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion because they say that if you are diverse, then you obviously are not qualified. So when Tiffany says, yeah, they both old, she right, they are both old. But there's only one person or one ticket that cares about democracy and is going to stand for it and respect the humanity that sits in this room. There is another side that is saying, you know what, the black folk that are going down to Essex, we want to get rid of that. We don't like them coming together. We don't like them talking about the real issues. We don't care about the struggles that are occurring economically or educationally when it comes to these black folk. And so while I know that no party is perfect, and I'm telling you, my party is not perfect, there is at least one party that is searching for a more perfect union. The other one is trying to tear us down.
What does Project 2025 mean for our public schools? For one, it means an eradication of Title I status over the course of the next 10 years. This means that low-income schools that receive funds from the federal government would no longer get it. For example, I taught at a school where over 80% of the kids, Black, Hispanic, and white, were low income. But even still, every child had a laptop. That's because it was a Title I school. So without this Title I status, you would have fewer resources for kids, you would have larger class sizes, you would have fewer paraprofessionals and teaching assistants. It would be more difficult to fund after school programs. There would be less money for college prep programs, summer food programs, less money for free lunch and reduced lunch for kids who can't otherwise afford to have a meal at home. It also means no more federal loans for kids who want to attend college. And of course, within that, every public school student, regardless of their income status, would have to take a military entrance exam. And let's be clear, y'all, Project 2025 is not something that would be magically implemented on the day Trump takes office if he's elected. It's something they've already been in the process of implementing already. Look at the Black History bans. Look at the Black History censorship. Look at the overall censorship of anything that advocates for equity or anti-racism. Look at the DEI programs being eradicated across the country. Anything that helps our kids who have dealt with historical injustices is being thrown out. So y'all, it's imperative that we vote, but it's also imperative that we begin to or continue to organize locally with like-minded people. They have this project because they're organized. What's our project? We got to start going to school board meetings, city council meetings, county meetings. We got to continue and start to go to park district meetings, neighborhood council meetings. We have to make sure our voice is heard. Project 2025 is not something that starts at a federal level. It starts with grassroots organizing. So in order for us to effectively counter that, we got to start where we are and where we live and in our households and in our communities.
So, supposed assassination attempt has come and gone. And now let's go back to the reality of things. He wants to control the airwaves worldwide. He got it this time. So, but now let's go back to the danger of Project 2025. That was what everybody was talking about before the supposed assassination attempt happened. So the danger of Project 2025 is actually not visible to his followers because, he called them poorly educated human being who doesn't understand the impact of what that Project 2025 is going to be on every human being. So I'm going to let this amazing attorney called Jasmine Crockett explain it. She's a lawyer. She knows what she's doing. She's a representative. So please listen to her. And then we'll talk right after when she finishes.
Can you talk about the dangers of Project 2025?
Project 2025 is nothing but a white supremacist manifesto to how they can delete anybody that ain't old, white, and male. That is all it is. It's about attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about attacking those that don't want to bow down to the orange Jesus and decide that they're going to be his loyalists and do whatever they want him to do. It's about getting rid of the Department of Education, getting rid of the Department of Justice, making everyone subscribe to the way that they understand and interpret Christianity, which I'm sure is the same Christianity that somehow justified slavery. That's why Trump had to go ahead and send that dog whistle about our black jobs. And I got news for him and anybody else. My black ass is exactly where I'm supposed to be, trying to check them and their white supremacy. So essentially what it is to destroy us and to destroy democracy. It also looks at consolidating power in the hands.
So this is exactly what I'm saying. So if you look at this comment, say black people started and continue the division. Who is doing the division apart from Trump and people like this? If we take the case of Russia, there are no black people that have the power in Russia, but all the Russian people are going through hell with their president. Same goes with Saddam Hussein, and this is what this guy is going to be. So please vote blue.
What you got to say about Project 2025? Have you heard of Agenda 47? Say what? Agenda 47. Nah. It's the actual platform that Trump is going to push when he becomes president. It's listed on his official campaign website. Project 2025 is not to be found there. Matter of fact, Project 2025 was created by a conservative think tank named the Heritage Foundation. It's supposed to make it illegal to be homeless. Has nothing to do with Trump. Trump has neither endorsed nor supported this platform. He has his own. But I saw on BET. I don't care what any Hollywood elite or BET Awards show hosted by Taraji P. Henson have told you about Project 2025. It is not a talking point of President Trump's campaign, nor is it something that he's interested in. It's just another tool to fearmonger you and to just continue to vote for the same people over and over again and never breaking the cycle of chaos that we see within the black community. Once again, just look at the decades long of Democrat control over black cities. Uncle Tom. It makes sense, man. But listen, do you? Be mad at what you want to be mad at, but you ain't mad at Trump. Man, shut up, coon.
What the faith is Project 2025, and why should Black Americans know about it? Project 2025 is a wish list for right-wing conservatives. It's a nearly 1,000-page document that provides a thorough outline of how the next Republican administration could drastically change the federal government, as well as everyday life for many Americans. It also aims to recruit and train thousands of people loyal to the conservative movement to fill federal government positions. Former President Trump denies any ties to Project 2025, but a CNN review found at least 140 people who worked for him that helped produce it. It is spearheaded and published by the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. What about the why Black Americans should know about Project 2025? It would roll back civil rights protections in employment and housing. It would get rid of federal agencies that help ensure equity, completely eliminating the Department of Education, greatly shrinking the CDC and dividing it into two new agencies, and eliminating the EPA's Office of Environmental Justice and Civil Rights, even though the harms of pollution and climate change historically impact communities of color. It would make it harder for underrepresented communities to access Head Start, Medicaid, and other federal programs. Head Start is a federally funded preschool program for low-income children, 30% of which are Black. It would be eliminated. It would limit access to food assistance, eliminating the service that provides the food and nutrition program. These are just a small snippet of why Black Americans should know about and care about Project 2025. Read this article at blackenterprise.com.
Have you ever heard of Project 2025?
I've read about that, Congresswoman.
Okay. There are some things indicated in Project 2025 that are quite concerning to me. One of those topics is diversity in the workplace. I'm sitting here and there seemed to be this question of you're either diverse or you're qualified. All I could think about was the fact that I currently hold an honorary doctorate. I also hold a Juris Doctorate. I also hold a bachelor's. I also technically hold the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Civil Air Patrol, and I actually practiced law for almost 2 decades, in addition to serving on various boards, in addition to being a prior state lawmaker. And there are those that would make some people believe that because I happen to be Black and or a woman, that somehow, even though I can rattle off all the qualifications in the world, my Blackness makes me unqualified.